Indeed, this is breaking news that shows Europe has finally started to respond to Russia's aggressive behavior. Today, on October 1st, French special forces seized a Russian-linked oil tanker from which Russians had been launching drones that were spotted in recent days over Denmark, Sweden and Norway. French military personnel have already boarded the oil tanker, which is included in the list of Russia's shadow fleet vessels, and are collecting evidence of its involvement in attacks on Europe. Let me remind you that Russia falsely claimed it was not involved in the drone attacks on European countries. My name is Alexei Pechi. Today is October 1st. Let's discuss this topic together. In the video, we will see French special forces boarding a ship linked to Russians, which is apparently involved in the attacks on Denmark. But before we begin, I want to remind you that every day on this YouTube channel, several news analysis videos about events around the world are released. So that you stay up to date with absolutely all the news, I recommend subscribing to this YouTube channel if you haven't already, give it a like, and please write any detailed comment under this video. This really helps a lot in promoting the videos on YouTube. So, as reported today by the French military, French special forces have seized and already boarded a Russian oil tanker, which is allegedly a launch platform for mysterious drone flights that caused airports in Denmark to be closed last week. Local television has already published footage of the French special forces boarding the Russian vessel. But what's also interesting is that Navy personnel were spotted on the deck of the vessel, which suggests that NATO has launched an operation to collect evidence of the ship's involvement in the drone attacks. The tanker named Barakay used various identification data and was one of 4 Russia-linked vessels present in the waters off the coast of Denmark. During the drone observations on September 22 and 24, which were spying on the military facilities of that country, is the vessel also part of the shadow fleet of the Russian Federation? And interestingly, the Europeans have already detained it once, but for some reason they let it go. I'll explain why a bit later. So, according to the route, the tanker Barakay was traveling from the Russian oil terminal in Primorsk near St. Petersburg with 750,000 barrels of crude oil to Vadinar in India. But on Sunday, it was intercepted by a French military vessel and directed towards Saint-Nazaire in western France. The reason for the stop and detention is its involvement with the shadow fleet of the Russian Federation and the mysterious stops this tanker made near Denmark, and it happened twice. And when it stopped, for some reason it turned off its detection sensors. On the same day, the French prosecutor's office launched an investigation, which Emmanuel Macron called a good step. The Kremlin, responding to the inquiry, stated that it has no information about the tanker or this incident. And in general, the Kremlin distanced itself from this vessel, stating that it's not their tanker and they have nothing to do with it, and they don't know anything about it at all. Although it departed from a Russian port, let me remind you, not far from St. Petersburg, but the Russians are playing dumb and say, what vessel, what tanker, we have no idea what this Barakay tanker is. Well, obviously the Kremlin just hasn't come up with an excuse yet, although a bit later I'll explain again why they're acting this way. And so Stefan Kellenberger, who is the prosecutor of the city of Brest in western France, stated that an investigation is underway due to the crew of the tanker being unable to prove the vessel's nationality and their refusal to cooperate. The tanker Barakay, sailing under the flag of Benin, literally changed its name from Pushpa just a couple of days ago. So before that it was called Pushpa, which is why the Russians are saying, well, Pushpa, and now we have some Barakay. We have no idea what kind of vessel this is. Under this name, it was spotted last week heading west along the coast of Denmark. And it was mentioned by naval experts as one of the few vessels connected to Russia that could have been involved in the drone incidents. This is the very vessel that, for some reason, stopped off the coast of Denmark and turned off its detection sensors. And then it even tried to change its name. It was called Pushpa, and then it was renamed to Barakay. Just a reminder, Copenhagen Airport closed for 4 hours on September 22 evening. Aalborg Airport, 2 days after drones were spotted in Danish airspace. However, as you know, for some reason the Danes didn't shoot down any of the drones. Denmark has officially accused Russia of the attack. One of the versions of the investigation is that the drones were launched from a ship or ships near Denmark, which didn't give the country's military time to respond. The drones quickly took off, observed, and returned to the same ships. Although the identification of the drones has not yet been established, such drones can be launched from a so-called catapult, which can easily be placed on a large ship on any deck. And now, an investigation by Danish media also identified two other commercial vessels, Astral 1 and Oslo Carrier 3, which were in the region at that time, as well as the Russian military ship Alexander Shabalin, which was filmed by a Danish tabloid from a helicopter south of Langeland in the far west of the Baltic Sea. The Oslo Carrier 3 ship has already been clarified. It's a Norwegian vessel that simply had a Russian crew. And now the ship owners have already explained that they allowed NATO military personnel on board, who conducted an inspection and said, okay, there are no issues with this vessel. We still have 3 ships left, the very same Barakay which was detained by the French Astral 1 and the Russian warship Alexander Shabalin. Last week there was another incursion, this time in northern Germany. And according to the official assessment conducted in a report by Der Spiegel magazine, the drones, which were presumably carrying out reconnaissance functions, flew over military facilities and infrastructure in the northern federal state of Schleswig-Holstein. And now pay attention. These days, the Barakay tanker, which was detained by the French, was just passing by Germany. Here, you can take another look at the map. On Wednesday, Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen stated that Europe is facing a hybrid war, referring to the drone incursions into Denmark, Poland, Finland, Norway, Sweden, Germany, France, and so on this month. As she stated, from Europe's perspective, only Russia poses a threat to us. The vessel Barakay, identified by its international maritime number, is under economic sanctions in the United Kingdom, the European Union, and other Western countries. Back in October 2024, the United Kingdom stated that the tanker, which was then called Varuna, so this is already the third name for it, it belonged to the shadow Russian fleet and transported Russian oil or oil products to another country. Let me remind you, the term shadow fleet is used to refer to vessels whose owners are very difficult to trace or that have been deceptively identified. But they are used by Russians for secret trading of oil and other goods, often with the aim of evading economic sanctions. Now here's the most interesting part. You've already remembered 3 different names. This tanker has had in the past year. In April of this year, this same tanker, which was then called Kivala, that's already the 4th name, was detained by Estonian authorities after they failed to confirm its registration in Djibouti. At first, Estonians were told the vessel's registration was cancelled, but 2 weeks later, Kivala was released after Djibouti agreed to take responsibility even though it wasn't officially registered. Well, and now here's another interesting one. Of the 2 other commercial vessels spotted near Denmark during the drone incidents, the vessel Astral 1, which was also seen in the Kattegat Strait, not far from Copenhagen, on the same day when the drone incident occurred. It is currently docked, you know where, in St. Petersburg. So everything fits together here. And today, as you know, in the Kremlin, I talked about this in the previous episode, they requested negotiations with Washington. But obviously they might still find something on the tanker that will directly indicate that it's the Russians who are organizing these drone provocations. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinions and conclusions in the comments under this episode, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.